there's literally 17,000 people in this exhibit floor that also most of them are moving around as well. So the walkways are it's like going to a Disney park.
Every October, event professionals descend on Las Vegas for IMEX America, the biggest, boldest, and let's be honest, most exhausting conference in our industry. Over 17,000 people, north of 6,000 buyers, 4,700 of them are hosted, with roughly 3,500 to 3,700 exhibitors. And here's the truth nobody tells you on LinkedIn. IMEX is equal parts inspiration, chaos, and a total therapy session. It's where deals are made, shoes are ruined, and planners discover just how much coffee one person can consume before noon. So today we're giving you the unfiltered story, the good, the bad, and the ugly, what's worth your time, what's not, and what you'll only learn the hard way if nobody warns you first. We're going to cover the unspoken IMEX questions you've always wanted to ask but never dared to. This is IMEX America, unedited, unfiltered, and entirely too caffeinated. I'm Megan Martin, and this is Event About It. All right, welcome everyone, and I am blessed to be here with my colleague Charlene. Charlene, tell the people who you are.
Hi, everyone. I'm Charlene Liu. I am the Senior Director of the Technology Experience Team at EMC Meetings and Events. I work closely with our technology leads who help our clients with anything technology and event related. I also partner with Megan to look at innovative solutions for our clients from a technology perspective as well. And I'm deeply intertwined with having lots of industry talk, fun conversations with Megan as well. So I'm really excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
I'm so glad you're here. And prior to your EMC role, you were in a planner role. So you're kind of like me where you've worn both sides of the hat.
I've come from initially a supplier side, working with the DMC, worked as a corporate planner, and then most recently before this as an association planner for global events. So have a lot of different perspectives from our relationship and transactional histories with all of the vendors, suppliers, and planners. So yes, lots to bring to the table here.
Amazing. And how many IMEX have you been to, including this year?
So this is my third. I would have had a fourth. Unfortunately, I live in Florida and the hurricane did prevent my attendance last year, which I was really looking forward to. And I would have gladly have rode that 4 anniversary wave with IMEX, but so unfortunately life happens. But yes, my third experience.
Nice. Okay, I was just trying to think. I think I've been to 5 or 6 IMEX at this point. So we're both kind of, I'm going to put us in the veteran category. We're like, maybe teenager veterans of IMEX at this point. I know there's people who've been to more than that. So what's one word you would use to describe IMEX?
The one word is invigorating. And the reason I say that is because as a planner, I've been a remote planner for years now. And yes, I'm involved with the local industry organizations like MPI, Tampa Bay, heavily involved there. But you don't really feel the meetings and events industry until you hit the floor at IMEX. This is our global representation of our fellow colleagues, our network. It's our home, our family. So from the first time I ever went to IMEX till this day, you really do feel like these are the people that truly understand what we're all going through from our industry perspective. It's so hard to explain our work to individuals other than just saying, oh, we're party planners. These are our people. These are people that understand exactly where we come from, what we deal with every day. So I always say invigorating, even though it's tiring, it's just because you leave with a renewed spirit of we're all in this together. And yes, there were thousands of people that just went through what we did. So it was really great experience. I always leave feeling really reinvigorated.
Exhausted, but definitely invigorated. I
Yes.
mean, there's a reason the hashtag I'm exhausted
Yes.
trends every year at the end, but you definitely I love that point of leaving invigorated, because you definitely do that after IMEX for sure. Was there a booth or activation or maybe even an education session this year that really stuck with you? Like something that you always look forward to like taking away from the show?
What I really like are the inspiration hub sessions. They're placed on the outskirts of the exhibit floor. So always kind of right there in the attendee eye when you're on that side of the trade show floor. They're really engaging because one, they do a lot of the what is it, the headphone style, like the silent disco type
Yeah.
of audio visual where you do not have to battle with the noise of the trade show floor to understand what the speaker is saying. They're really quick. They're like quick hits of education. They don't take up too much time. And you get a lot of perspectives of different education that people are just throwing out there that wouldn't traditionally be in a meeting room. So I really like them. It doesn't take you away from the trade show floor. You get some education and you can go right back to appointments or meetings. So any of those sessions I really like to hit and just sit in on. Yes, you can sign up for them ahead of time, but you're able to just go hit up a session really quickly and then come right back out. So I love those.
Yeah, it's a great point. I mean, two things for sure that you touched on were they're shorter sessions. So those are typically only 20, 25-minute sessions. So you can squeeze them in between appointments for sure. But I think the biggest thing is that they're on the show floor. Like, so you don't have to walk, forever to get to a meeting room and then have to like hustle all the way back for those appointments. So they make it really convenient. And we're going to get into the separation between Smart Monday education and like the show floor in a minute, but I think the innovation hub theaters that they do are always a nice job. And I personally love the silent disco headphones. Like I wish more shows would do that. Like I think they're a great experience.
They should do those audio tours for IMEX where you're just walking. You're like, oh, well, here's the Singapore booth to your left, and this is what they're featuring. That might
Like
be
a
a great idea.
museum guide, like a museum curator
Yeah.
guide. For sure, that's a great idea. I know there's a couple groups, hosted by a group I was a part of, they did like a IMAX crawl where they did something
Oh.
similar. They didn't have the headphones, but they did like find cool booths on the first day, and then the second day they do like a curated crawl. So, shout out to Club Ichi for their
Mhm.
IMAX experience crawls. Um, all right, before we get into the heated debate of hosted versus not hosted at IMEX, what advice would you give to any attendee who maybe overcommits on their first year?
So, my first year going to IMEX, I was hosted, and the rules are pretty intimidating because they say you need to commit to at least 6 to 8 appointments a day, depending on when you're approved to arrive and depart. The expectation is no matter what, the show floor is open for 3 days. So whether you are only there for 2 days, the expectation like compacts itself. So if
Yeah.
it's 6 to 8 appointments per day, that technically means by the end of IMEX, you need to have completed a minimum of 18 appointments, no matter when you leave. So packing that into 2 days, if that's when you're at, is one, you need to pre-plan ahead of time. As soon as appointments open, I would recommend, I don't do this. I should follow my own advice. You need to get the most of, to get the best availability for the vendors
Yeah.
you want to go to and at the time you want to go to, wherever they're placed on the exhibit floor. As soon as it opens, you just start scheduling. I met up with a planner and she did that, and her schedule is very different than mine. She had 30-minute breaks in between each of her appointments, had time to meander around. One of the items that I know you and I will discuss that you just can't anticipate for is there's literally 17,000 people in this exhibit floor that also most of them are moving around as well. So the walkways are it's like going to a Disney park. You're walking, there's somebody with a stroller or a bar cart or like a bar will pass through, you have to wait. People also just stand in the middle of the walkway with on their phones. So you not only have to travel between booth to booth, you also need to accommodate the fact that one, you might get stopped, like you might have to weave around. I actually did create a time lapse video, which I can share with you I was
Yeah,
trying
please.
to go straight from wall to wall, but you could see me weaving through people. One, I was on
Yeah.
a fast track. Um, the second part is if you are connected in the industry, you'd like to network, you'll also see people along the way that you will just be like, oh my gosh, it's so great to see you, but I'm on to the next appointment. So it's not just the walking, it's also the connection. And again, that's kind of the invigorating part is you're there and you're seeing people that you might not have seen in years, you just saw last week. So there's so many parts of it where you just need to plan ahead of time. Also, you need to plan for meals. That's something that you kind of don't think about. I don't eat as much during IMEX than I do any other weeks. I think we can call it the IMEX weight loss journey, where you don't eat as much, you graze like a gazelle wherever you can, you get a random drink here, hors d'oeuvre here, etc., and you're just moving from event to event or booth to booth. So that's kind of really, really key that unfortunately I don't follow myself. I'm just, and another part of it that we discussed too, being hosted, there are required hosted events that are not always published at the same time that the appointments open in IMEX. So there is a little bit of a disconnect there. So scheduling appointments ahead of time might not work because you will have this block of time that you're required to be somewhere for your hosted buyer experience. So it's always a push and a pull every year. And as we know in event planning, things just don't always line up. My recommendation is still to put your appointments first and foremost, so you can at least get your name out there to the vendor or supplier that you're seeing.
Agreed. I think that's some great advice. And the other thing, once let's just say you find yourself overcommitted, like pack a lot of patience. Like you're gonna be late, and that's fine because everyone is late at IMAX. Like if I hit every appointment on time, that's a small victory and win. But also it's okay to bail on stuff. Like the no-show rates at IMAX because there is so much going on. I want to say like I saw a supplier post that they had like a 55 or 60% no-show rate for their reception, which for something like IMAX feels pretty common. So, like, also protect your space, your own safe space. Like, if you need to take the night and you're exhausted and your social battery's at zero, then just bail. Like, don't feel like you have to try to do everything because you're not going to get to everything. And sometimes you just have to, call uncle and be like, I really would love to get there, but like, I just mentally can't do it. So, like, protect. And for me, I try to protect my mornings. Like, I
Mhm.
don't want to be rushed in the morning because then that sets the whole trickle down effect, like domino effect for the day. So, like, just give yourself some grace. And, if you got to bail on stuff, at least communicate, like, so sorry, I can't make it. I just can't do it.
Mhm.
It's not as uncommon as you would think at a show like IMAX.
And asking questions of the person that invited you to is also important. I think if you're going to an event where they've invited a majority of all of their prospects, leads, customer and clients. So if you're going to an event where their anticipated guest list is 400 people versus a much more private dinner invite, which I
Correct.
had received some, the smaller dinner invite is of more importance to that contact that you made than it is for the 400-person reception, right? So I think asking these questions ahead of time of, is this more intimate? Do you really need my presence there? Because I think you and I both separately on Tuesday night juggled 4 different receptions
Yes.
events that we went to, and that's
And I
8
turned down
appointments.
2 dinners that night too because,
Oh,
like,
yes.
I was already committed with receptions. I couldn't commit to a 2 or 3-hour sit-down dinner. So I said, "Thank you so much for inviting me. I would love to join you at another time." But, like, I just don't have the capacity to add a dinner to my schedule.
And everybody's understanding. No one is ever, really taken offense at a delay or a no-show component. But obviously, we do provide the courtesy of saying, "I apologize, I just cannot make it."
Yeah.
Okay.
I think communication's the key there.
Mhm.
All right, so let's go into the hosted versus non-hosted experience because sometimes I feel like the hosted buyer program, while lovely and amazing, and I have done non-hosted and hosted experiences at IMEX, they're somewhat of a golden handcuff, if you will,
Mhm.
because if you're hosted, you have guaranteed supplier access, you get faster lines, you have lounge and networking opportunities. Depending on who you're hosted by, you get other I think it was last year, the year before, like Marriott took everyone to the Sphere. Maybe it wasn't Marriott, but one of the brands like took all of their hosted buyers out. So like there are perks that come with it, but there's also the commitment. You're tracked everywhere. For me, the reimbursement doesn't even cover all of my travel expenses. So at some point, I'm now weighing is it really worth it? Where the flexibility for me is more important now than the financial commitment to like be hosted to be able to go. Really curious on your thoughts on in the future, would you do hosted versus non-hosted, and someone thinking about coming for the first time, like should they lean towards a hosted experience?
That's a really so there's a lot of different answers to tackle in that, right? So this is my third year, also my third year being hosted. Last year would have been hosted as well. But I had a lot more flexibility this year than I've seen before. I was hosted by MPI, and they do have their standard hosted events that do occur year over year, so it's understandable. I am very involved from a volunteer level with MPI at the chapter level and from a global perspective. So for me, it was a benefit because I got to re engage my connections from the MPI global level and the MPI Foundation, right? Because that's just something that I knew I wanted to do and hone in on for IMEX this year. So it was really great. So that elevated my experience. Now, previously, for my other hosted experiences, they're nice. So I was hosted by Marriott before. They do a lot of great buyer experiences for their members, like having specific parties, like welcome events. The swag is nice too. But if it is your first time, I think it is nice to have an inherent group to attach yourself to. I think about this as my own like introverted person coming back out, where if I was going for the first time, I don't know who else is going. I might not, have a buddy to attach myself to. Yes, there's an obligation, but my introversion is speaking out because now I can recognize people and be like, oh, okay. In a group of 17,000, it might feel a little lonely. You also might not know where you're going, and you might be able to attach yourself to someone who might be a future connection. When you are a little more seasoned, as you and I are at this point, and you have the financial wherewithal to be able to go and the support of your organization, the hosted part I think definitely needs to fade away. You become a little bit better on the planning. Like we'll talk about like planning the meals. Internally for us, we had two other members of our organization also attend, so we were able to separate the obligations of the different components for our service items that we provide to our clients. So Megan and I split a lot of the technology. I also did a lot of the ancillary outside of just venues, and our sourcing team did a lot of the hotels and um,
Which if
the
you have a team and they're able to do that, like that
yeah.
was such a godsend for me this year, is
Mhm.
having a whole team and the four of us sitting down ahead of time when we went to go do appointments of like, okay, you guys focus here, I'm focused here. So then you don't feel like you have to get to everything. And then we were debriefing, throughout the week and when we got home about what we saw, what was cool, activations, who we met with. So I would do that again. Like if you have team members going, definitely lean on them to not feel as overwhelmed.
And if you don't have team members going, which has been my experience in the past several years, my recommendation would be for your appointments, like to split it up. I think 60% of your appointments need to be your high priority. These are your like the vendors that you really need to have a discussion with, whether it's DMOs or DMCs or, hotels or even the countries. 60% of those should be high priority. I think 20% should be like your medium level. These are the ones that you would like to go to, but can cancel. And then the other remaining 20% should just be pure interest and you want more information. You don't necessarily have a business need for it now, but at least you're getting info for something later. So that's usually how I would break out my appointment setting. Not everyone is high priority. And it's also not fair for you to set such high priority meetings back to back to back from a mental perspective and just be on.
Mhm.
One of the other big things for me is we're in this industry, I find myself I'm on from a networking perspective and potentially talking to people as soon as I step into my airport at home, because
Correct.
there's inevitably people on the flight going with me to Vegas. When you're in the airport of Vegas, when you step out of your hotel room, I see every opportunity as a way to connect with somebody going to the event. So I find myself on a
Yep.
lot more than I do anywhere else, because you can make a connection really anywhere and you don't know where people are coming from. So it's exhausting. So I would definitely prioritize and not make IMEX this huge high level, high priority type of appointment deal. You need to give yourself some grace as an attendee as well, whether you're
I
hosted
mean,
or
yeah, agreed. And honestly, some of those like white space times, like sitting on the shuttle bus to get to Mandalay or standing in line for coffee or waiting for your luggage at the airport, so those are some of the easiest times to network with people, especially if you're introverted, because like you are in a common space. Like just put the phone down for a minute and like engage with the person next to you, because you obviously already have, some common interest, like you're about to get coffee or like, oh God, this line is so long. Like just
yeah.
strike up a conversation. So I love that. And I think you make a good point too about breaking up like must have appointments versus like nice to have, we're exploring and like brand new, because when you're setting these, especially as a hosted buyer, there is an expectation from suppliers that those appointments have an outcome. It's
Mhm.
not time for an elevator pitch. It's not time for a hello, because you don't want to end up with this like reputation like, oh, well, here comes Megan again. She always books meetings, but like never closes any business. So,
Right.
like, that's just not the way you want to lead into a conversation. And if you're hosted and you're going to appointments, there is an expectation that you have business or outcomes or actual conversations. Now, that
Mhm.
doesn't mean like my first appointment of the day, I always book with someone that I'm friendlier with. That's maybe the
Yeah.
like warm lead or a discovery,
Mhm.
because also that gives me some flexibility if there's traffic or delays or whatever.
Mhm.
But you have to keep that in mind. So
Yeah.
that's
And that's
sort
how
of
I started and ended all my days. Yeah.
oh, you end your days that way?
All of my days I started with somebody familiar and ended the days with somebody familiar, mostly so at the end of the day we could just have an appointment and then go get a drink. But the middle
Love
of the days when I'm much more already in the zone and ready to talk, I set those for my new individuals or discovery or anything like that. So I always familiar, new, and then familiar. And plus, if you need to skip the end, they are much more willing to be like, oh, okay, like I understand, we can just catch up. So I
Yeah.
definitely, there's like this innate scheduling sense, I guess, that is just now coming out. So thanks for bringing that.
Yeah, well, we're gonna get into pre-show prep here in just a second. So, closing out hosted versus non-hosted, what I'm seeing is if you're newer to the industry or it's your first time going to IMEX, hosted buyer's probably a good thing to do. You have this group that you're going to be with, especially for our introverted friends. But the trade-off is you're trading your time and you're trading those meetings, and there is value expected to be delivered from being hosted, to where if you're more senior and more connected and maybe have more contacts in the industry and the financial component and support from your org, then you probably can forego the hosted buyer, appointments.
I think a hosted buyers like you should be everyone's first intake experience, right? Like I don't
Agreed.
want to say the word, but like your hazing ritual. Like do it to the max while you're figuratively younger and can do it. And as you get older, you start like I felt like this was my most relaxed IMEX that I've
Same.
ever done. So it was a great experience for me, and I would repeat it easily. I wasn't as although I did come back with some form of sickness, but that's
Everybody
just
gets
too
IMEX crud.
yeah.
Well, that goes straight into sort of the pre-show prep. So we've kind of talked about this scheduling side of things, like bookending it with, your friends or, colleagues, things, appointments that are, I don't want to say fluffy, but not as strategic business conversations, which I love that advice. For me, how I book meetings, I book them as soon as I'm allowed to, and then I'll adjust as any hosted buyer or other commitments come up. I book everything in the app, but then I also run my own spreadsheet, because then I put in lunch breaks, I put in, receptions, if there's other meetings or things I'm doing throughout the show. That way I have one source of truth, but then the appointments are all in the app and they're done through the app. The way I structure it is I go aisle by day. So I'll pull up multiple monitors and I'll say, okay, I'll put one monitor has the show floor on it. I'm like, okay, today is going to be all section C. And then I'll book all of the appointments I need in that aisle for that day. And then I'll move to the next and the next for over the 3 days. That way, because you mentioned you were kind of late in booking your appointment. So you were probably running from one end to the show to the other, which, takes 30 plus minutes to get on either side. So I try to book it as soon as I can. And I go aisle by aisle, day by day, to keep everything contained and save my feet. Because I actually was surprised. I looked at my step count. I only had 17,000 steps on my peak day. So obviously I scheduled it right, because I wasn't running around like a crazy person.
You did. Mine was my peak day. Interestingly, well, I wouldn't say my last day, because I also traveled to the airport that day. My high was 19, like mid 19,000, and that was Wednesday, that was including rendezvous, etc. So not too bad. Overall, I did over 75,000 from Sunday to Thursday. So
not too bad. Not too bad.
Yeah, it's not too
Other
bad.
thing I do, we talked about the IMEX crud. I get IV therapy before I go to my local IV therapy place. I get an immunity bag of fluids like a day or two before I leave for IMEX. I mean, I lose my voice every year. Like, that's just inevitable. The dry air. Get a humidifier in your room, people. Take an Advil every night. You'll save your voice. And I still have a little bit of crud coming back, but man, the first couple of years I did IMEX, I used to come home so sick because the dry air, all the hugging, all the late nights, you're talking this close to someone because the receptions are loud. So that's sort of my pre-show prep and how I book my meetings and keep myself healthy. What's sort of your routine going into show site?
Well, I'm just going to say I'm hopeful that when I get to my 5th or 6th year of IMEX, that I will be as properly planning as you with the spreadsheets and everything. I kind of just go off of a whim and just who can I schedule with, obviously. So I'm still in that mindset. So maybe I'm just more of a junior level, not senior level.
Hey, look, my schedule, I'm way too type A, and I need the mental structure to be able to survive. But I know plenty of people who aren't hosted buyers who just show up and walk the floor and wing it, and Godspeed to them. But that is not the way I like to operate.
I feel like I have a little bit of that rebellious spirit in me too, where I'm just I don't know, I want to be free because I don't know what's going to come at me. And as you know, literally as soon as you step into Vegas, dozens of invites will come your way on Friday, Saturday, Sunday before IMEX. So you really truly still don't know what your schedule is until you just figure out what your priority is the day of, like the 4 that we talked about on that day. I didn't determine that until that morning. And even then I was still working through it. So
I went to 2 other receptions that night that weren't even on my schedule. They were like, "Oh, you're coming to the Women in Expo reception tonight?" I was like, "Oh, I totally forgot about that. Yeah, I'll stop by."
Which I do want to talk about, by the way, us having our own drivers for the most popular night, because I hit 4 the dinner receptions in 2.5 hours. And I can't tell you how quickly I was in and out of different cabs going to each of these, all 4 at different properties, by the way. No one was in the same property. But yes, the way that let's see how we do next year. Maybe I will get earlier than just the Thursday before I'm planning. But I did schedule our team dinner early, so that was helpful.
You did do that. I mean, this is the soapbox I love to live on, is that meetings are the new office, and we're a fully remote company. So it was really special to me that our team and Charlene booked it to schedule time for the 4 of us to actually sit down and have a meal together and talk about work and catch up and get to know each other, because, some of our other two team members that came to IMEX, I've only met one of them one other time. Like, I haven't seen her in over a year. And some of that team bonding is just so important to have. And, you know, that'd be one tip I'd give to IMEX is like, if there was a way to like create a space or opportunities for like teammates to get together and even do some work or whatever, that would be awesome, because I think so many teams are remote now and come to these shows together as a team bonding experience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that'd be really great. Maybe they just do sign up team building experience where you and your team can just jump in and they just kind of post it. That'd be really great.
Yeah, that'd be
Um,
cool. Last
so
thing on pre-prep,
uh,
Smart Monday. So we talked about the education on the show floor.
mhm.
I was not able to go to Smart Monday this year because I was in a different program, but you have historically gone to Smart Monday. So talk about what that is, and is it worth coming in the day early to go to?
Yeah. So Smart Monday is put on by MPI, and it is a day full of education sessions, keynotes, etc. They also do a lot of collaboration with IMEX and holding certificate courses in person. Now, if you are somebody that likes to sit in a classroom, meeting room setting and have that type of engagement with other attendees for a certificate course, this is the way to go versus sitting for weeks long at your desk going through, content, et cetera, or even a virtual session online. I think that the certificate courses for those that are looking to get their like HMCC and all those other ones that are
Yeah.
kind of hard to find time for, and one, you don't really find that you can engage virtually, this is the opportunity to go. And you get to beat a little bit of the rush. I would recommend always coming in the night before. So Sunday night, it's not as busy as Monday arrival for the main IMEX start day of Tuesday. So I would, if you are going to look for certificate courses, that's definitely the way to go. The breadth of education sessions that they have is quite a bit. They do stack multiple sessions in one time slot. So I found that specifically for the 9:30 slot, I had 3 different sessions that I wanted to attend. So had to pick one. When you have a team that goes, this will be the best time to separate and go to education. Smart Monday is the really best pick to go if you want to have a wholesome experience of networking, education, and connection. You will, like I mentioned, not have time to leave the show floor to go to sessions that are in meeting rooms. It's just too much work. And I've tried to do that before, and I've always just left the sessions unattended because one, was late for a booth meeting or need to be early because it's on the other side. So Smart Monday is a way to round your experience with IMEX for an education component in addition to all of the in-person engagement that you'll do. What's really key for me is looking at sessions that have almost like tactical objectives. So there's a lot of sessions that talk about the state of the current industry, right? We all live it. For me personally, I live it every day. I have a lot of um, like industry newsletters that I read all the time. So I can kind of see, and obviously talking with our clients, what's going on. Sessions that have actionable objectives and KPIs and everything like that taken away from it are where you want to go. And so reading through, taking the time in addition to scheduling your appointments, reading through the session descriptions themselves, I find really helpful because that way I know, okay, this is something that I like to go to, but this one has something that I can definitely take away from. So I think Smart Monday is a great add-on to your IMEX experience if education is one of the takeaways you want. If you're really going there to make connections with vendors, to meet with people, I think you can bypass that. But it really, for me, it's like a slow roll into the whole IMEX experience because there are thousands of people that go, but not the full 17,000 with the trade show component.
Great.
You also get familiar with the convention center a little bit before everybody else gets on site. So it kind of gives you a little preview as well. You get your lantern early. So yeah, I would recommend it if education is top priority.
Well, that's a good segue of kind of surviving on site. And I think Smart Monday is that perfect sort of lead into the week. It's a little slower. As you said, there's not as many people there. I feel like the education also goes a little deeper because the show floor education, they're like 20-minute dopamine, quick hit education topics, which are great. But you're also squeezing that in on top of everything else, where Smart Monday goes a little bit deeper and you're getting a little bit more formal education, if you will. Not saying that the show floor stuff isn't, but it feels a little more traditional learning than those like quick hit. But that getting your badge early, learning the lay of the land of where all the rooms are and sessions and the lounges. And I mean, just navigating Mandalay Bay in itself is a whole nother story time that we could go through. So I think that's a great tip. What are some other things that people should think about when they're surviving the actual meeting? Like, what do we actually wear? What shoes? What time should you get there? Like, what are some of your on-site survival tips?
So my so I find this really funny because people always think it's weird for me, but it's personalized to me. I Everybody wears casual sneakers, no matter what. Casual sneakers, you will
Not
see.
me. I'm a heel girly, and I finally
Yeah.
found Cozy
Well,
Island. Hit me up. I'm trying to be an ambassador. I will sell meeting planner shoes all day. They're my favorite heels. I will walk miles in those things.
well, and
But
I'm
I'm
glad
not a
that you
sneaker
enjoyed it.
girl. I
Yeah.
just can't
Right.
do it. I won't do it.
And I don't usually, but I find that for me, like whenever I was executing events on site, I always needed to change my shoes halfway through the day because to be honest, we're always in pain, whether it is like from the foot perspective, from our lower back perspective. So me, I have to balance the pain. So
Yeah.
where I will start the day off with heels, because that's when I'm probably at my lightest and it won't impact me as much. And then I will bring a change of shoes with me, whether they're flats or sneakers, and just put in my backpack. Also, really key, you need to bring a bag with you. There's just no way that you should walk into IMEX with just your phone and your lanyard. Um, you will acquire collateral. You'll also want to, people will give you things like one of the top products I always see every year that people are always asking for is lip balm, right? Because it's so dry. Lip balm is one of the like the most commonly given swag item at the exhibit booths, and they always go quickly. So it's one of the essentials. So I would say bring it, but then you will be well stocked on the show floor with it. So I always say bring two different pairs of shoes. Um, I would also reduce your laptop impact. I know some people, we took the time to bring our laptops and do work. If you can transition to a tablet, that's easier on the weight for you. And from what you're wearing, I always, again, change between pants and then a skirt. Sometimes I just needed to, you know, walk more quickly. Sometimes I just needed to be a little bit more flowy. So I would always change what I was wearing day by day, like not go by a certain outfit just because one, I needed the change up for my own body. And then two, I think you get a different perspective. Like this is now our chance to go to an industry event and not be tied down to that event uniform that we all always wear. I always love seeing other people and what they wear too. I mean, you can imagine the European countries, they have their attire on point, right? So it's
Oh, yeah.
always nice to see like other individuals what they're wearing, and as well as the Asian countries too. So from an attire perspective, I change it up. I also, want to be the most flexible. What I think would be difficult are individuals that do stay there all day long, that go straight from the show floor to their evening receptions, and they don't have a place to change. Because your evening attire might require a little bit something different. My recommendation, if you're a hosted buyer, to utilize the hosted buyer lounge. It was a little bit different this year. There were not as many amenities provided to the hosted buyers, which I found was it was a little hard to get around. Usually hosted buyers get breakfast and some form of lunch or like a heavier
Right.
station type of food. And it wasn't provided this year, which was, a little off-putting, but, IMEX also does provide, the food outlets around the show floor.
Which, by the
But
way, are so expensive. I was flabbergasted at the cost of those. I mean, this is a good point. Like, I bring snacks, and I'm gonna add at the end of this episode a whole video I recorded on site of what I actually carry in my bag. And I have like I feel like a mom like going out with their kids because there's just like snacks on snacks on snacks in my bag because you graze. Like we talked about this earlier in the episode. Like there's just if you can make it in between appointments to host a buyer lounge and actually find food in there, I
Right.
mean, lucky you, you should go play the lottery that day. That has never been my experience. So I just plan to like not really eat lunch and just snack on, you know, fruit strips, beef sticks. I bring
Mhm.
liquid IVs to try to stay hydrated because you can't always, refill a water bottle as easily. I
Yep.
mean, you just got to, and then if there's food in a booth, yeah, I'm going to stop
I'll
and
take it.
probably,
Yeah.
yeah.
Another pre-conference tip, as soon as reservations open on the Mandalay Bay dining site, and we already know the days for IMEX next year, I would just book reservations out now. Like it's just getting to any food place where you want to have a true meal. And then it also gives you the flexibility of if somebody does want to take you, like one of your vendors wants to take you out for lunch, you'd be like, well, I have an existing appointment already from this time and it's for this amount of people. They'll be grateful as well. Finding a good sit down restaurant during IMEX not is not easy to do, especially when you plan later. Fortunately, we were able to find something ourselves, but if you want to eat a true meal, like if you're setting aside an hour in your appointment time or in your diary for that week, I would recommend as soon as the reservations are able to be done on Mandalay Bay just to do it. Like for me now, I know I'm just going to schedule lunch at different restaurants for 4 people, right? For next year.
For sure.
Yeah, I think
The
that's
one thing
really
I did that's a great tip. And the one thing I did really appreciate that they had this year, that I hadn't seen in the past, Olympian meetings put together what they called the Circadian Cove that had
mm,
like quiet white space that was off the show floor.
yeah.
It was a little tucked away down a hallway, which at first I was kind of annoyed that it was kind of like a little out of the way, but that was very intentional because you could really kind of take a minute to decompress from the show. And like I found myself going there for breaks all the time. They had some zero gravity lounge chairs. They had this whole like little tunnel room area that they created that had no like it had white noise machines and essential oils. Like it was so calming in there that I found myself kind of starting and then midday was like maybe right before the afternoon rush started, like going and sort of recentering. So I hope they bring that back because I really enjoyed the Circadian Cove that they did this
Mhm.
year.
Yeah. Maybe a component of the hosted buyer lounge, but it's accessible through for everybody.
Oh, that's a
Um,
good idea.
yeah, they
Yeah.
did have like that bag check area, which was a lot of space for a bag check. Yeah, maybe
Yeah, that
another
would be
idea.
good. And for me, I am not as fashionable as Charlene and pretty much wear the same outfit every day. I'm a jeans bodysuit blazer gal, but I kind of take the Mark Zuckerberg approach to my clothes when I go on conference site. Like the last thing I want to do in the mornings is think about what I'm going to wear. So like I try to lay it out the night before and just like I know I'm a jeans, heels, bodysuit blazer. And then I
Mhm.
do always have a pair of flip-flops in my bag in case my feet do get tired or swollen from the dry air. You at least give your feet, that kind of break.
Yeah.
All right,
Well,
last question for on-site.
oh, yes.
How early do you actually arrive? So show floor typically opens, I think, at 9:30 or 10.
Mhm.
For me, on if I don't go to Smart Monday, I made this mistake this year. I waited in line and almost missed my first appointment trying to get my badge.
Mhm.
They do encourage you to print it at home, but like I'm millennial, I don't have a printer. Like I don't know the last time I actually printed anything. So I would say get there like before 9 o'clock if you don't pick up your badge on Monday. Like if you
Mhm.
don't go to Smart Monday and get your badge, I would get there before 9. But what's your morning routine?
So every morning for me was different because some of my hosted buyer requirements were in the mornings. So they had like morning kickoffs with booths before technically the trade show floor opened, and I received my badge on Monday. And I printed my, even though I'm also a millennial, I have a printer and I printed my badge, so not to throw it in your face. So at least I did one thing before. Like
There
I
you
didn't
go.
schedule my appointments, but I did print my badge.
A
Um,
plus, gold star for Charlene.
so I first day, now here's what's gonna happen, right? So you have all of the exhibitors coming in that did not have any part of it, of setting up their booths the day before, coming in that morning, getting their badges, and also finding their way. That's also when a majority of people are testing out the shuttle buses that morning as well. I would recommend, luckily, I didn't schedule my first appointment. Tuesday was not one of the days I had an early hosted buyer time. I would recommend leaving whatever hotel you're at, you know, way early before the rush of the show floor. So the show floor didn't technically start till 10, but it was already open
Yeah.
because everybody was just flowing in, getting set up, etc. So
I think exhibitors can go in early. So the
yeah.
doors are open, but I think attendees can't get in till 10, but I don't quote
Well,
us on that.
yeah, and I think we had to, some groups had to be walked in. So if you were going there for a hosted buyer, like reception. So Wednesday, I had like a 9:30 like hosted buyer event at with the Greater Miami CDB. So we had to be walked in, right? So or granted permission. Tuesday morning, if you are not going to Smart Monday and you haven't picked up your badge, I would get there as early as you can. Otherwise, you're going to find barriers almost at every level. You'll find a lot of people going to your shuttle bus. I heard the shuttle buses also were delayed. Now, during this time, Vegas is in the build for the F1 race. So there's just a lot of construction happening on the streets. The first year, 2 years ago when they first had it, it was havoc in the city of Vegas. It would take us an hour to go 2 miles in
Yeah.
on the strip. So it was crazy. They've gotten a lot better with it now, and it's not till late November. But I would recommend as early as possible if you don't have an early appointment. If you can make it toward the later part where everybody should technically have already started, then I think it's fine to go whenever you need to. But luckily, I didn't have a shuttle bus issue this year. Our hotel that we were at connected via tram to Mandalay Bay. So I found that to be extremely useful for me. And I never had to battle for.
Yeah, I was way on the other end of the strip. I was super far. I took the shuttle. And then one thing that I'm not really sure what was going on, but like the Uber Lyft situation at the hotels is never great in Vegas because they put them in weird locations that require to walk further. So in Vegas, I typically always just take a taxi. Like, I think they're more accessible and easier to get to. And this year, definitely, I'm not sure what was going on with Uber and Lyft, but like they couldn't drop off in certain areas. Like it was super weird. I really think the moral of the story is just like give yourself extra time for everything all the time at IMEX. Like give yourself breaks, schedule them in, just over anticipate how long it's going to take you to get through everything because it does take a long time. Okay, let's round out this episode with a cheeky, fun event about it game. We're calling it Hosted, Ghosted, or Roasted. So this is a version of like Shag, Marry, Kill. So you have to decide who you're going to fully commit to. So hosted, ghosted, what you're skipping, avoiding, or roast them, call out publicly you're not going to do it. Okay? Round 1, networking. 8 a.m. breakfast meeting, 11 p.m. rooftop reception, or hallway drive-bys that turn into 20-minute chats?
Oof. I am going to, it feels unfair. I'm roasting the 8 a.m. meetings, one, just because it's 8 a.m. in Vegas. Okay, let's just end it with that. Let's just say that and end it with that. I'm roasting that one. Hosted, I will do the hallway chats that turn into 20-minute. I find the most value in those. The unplanned conversations have more value for me. And then the ghosted 11 p.m. You will not find me anywhere outside of my hotel room at 11 p.m. unless I paid for it, like rendezvous, or it's like a really special, like I'm doing it with my team, right? So yeah, that would be my 3.
I love it. All right, next one. AI-powered matchmaking, sustainability pledges, and wellness lounges that are really just couches and water.
Hosted would be the wellness. No matter what, anywhere to sit down and get hydrated is a plus. No matter, I think that's just general human needs. The sustainability pledges, I find that interesting. What was the first one again? I'm trying to remember.
AI powered matchmaking, sustainability pledges, wellness lounge.
AI powered matchmaking, even though we're in technology, I'm going to roast those. I think from the surface level, yes, you can see what I need. I mean, and this is also, we need a lot of prompts. I need prompts to understand. But from a very surface level, if you're just associating me, my title, my company with, and whatever you can find on the internet, as well as whatever exhibitors are on the floor, I would, you know, glance at the matchmaking, but I would not take it serious because you don't know my true needs of being there, right? Unless you knew
Yeah.
my entire profile, like all my chat GPT prompts, there's no way that you would know exactly what I need. So I'm going to roast that from a surface level without having
Yeah.
more information. And
And your
then the
ghosting
ghosting is
ability.
sustainability. Yeah.
I love it. All right, last one. Mega 100 by 100 booths with espresso bars, a niche 10 by 10 startup with cool tech, or destination pavilions giving out wine at 2 p.m.
Hosted for sure, Destination Pavilions giving out wine at 2 p.m. because I did that literally on Wednesday. So I can't say that and not feel like a hypocrite. Um, I think I will roast the mega pavilions. I think, and another takeaway from my IMEX experience, the booths this year were a lot smaller. I think there was a strategic change by IMEX to add more vendors, which I know that they spoke about in their post-event news. Um, they tried more to focus on a lot more vendors, smaller spaces. So I do think that the Mega 100 by 100, which I don't even know of a booth that does that anymore. You need to be more strategic, more direct with your marketing and your branding and your touch points. 100 by 100 is wasted space, considering you need to supply people to fill up the 100 by 100 and expensive furniture. So I will roast that. And so then
Your ghost
the
in tech.
ghosted is the tech. And it's unfortunate because you would think tech has money to spend on booths to showcase their equipment. A lot of tech is now just virtual. You can do touch point by touch point, but unfortunately, all of the tech area, as we saw, were in 10 by 10s, and they did try to pack it. Either they packed it a lot or they didn't pack enough. So I think how you showcase yourself as a tech booth in like this space that's really more focused on like the vendor supplier component from a destination perspective is interesting. So at this point in time, from what I experienced, I'd say ghosted.
I love it. All right, so wrapping up, it wouldn't be an event about it segment without event of the week. You and I have talked about our number one pet peeve, and this is not just IMEX related, but this is for airports, really anywhere you're walking. So give us what is your biggest frustration about walking the show floor at IMEX. Vent it out. Tell us the grievance.
So I will not call out any exhibitor in particular or any section, but there are exhibitors that need to take calls, which is great. We all need to take calls at some point, but because they're in a booth, they feel like they need to be out of the booth to take a call. So where they take it is in the middle of the walkway. So me swerving around people in IMEX that were on the phone, just standing there because they're on a phone call, was my biggest frustration. Um, and I find that really interesting because I know generally when we talk about manners and etiquette worldwide, Americans are like considered not to be considerate because there's always, when you
Yeah.
go down escalators, you always need to be on the right side. So walking people can walk or flow through. And that was not in any way, shape, or form like shown at IMEX, no matter what country or where you're from. It was just, this is an open space. I will stand here even if there's people moving around me. So that I cannot tell you how many times I had to check myself to just be like, we're all here to to do the same thing. Let's not say, excuse me very, very loudly. So this
I mean,
my
it's not
biggest
just the exhibitors taking calls, but like if you see someone that you're walking past and you guys want to stop and chit chat, step to the side and take
yeah.
the conversation out of the middle of the walkway. Or like if you're not sure where you're going, step to the side and pull out the mobile app and look at it. Like the amount of people I have almost tripped over because they just like stop walking in the middle of the aisleway. And now I'm like tumbling over them. It's just like the airport. It drives me crazy at the airport too when people do that.
Yeah. It's one of the things that you don't plan for that actually should be part of your pre-planning, because you should anticipate you're not going to go in a straight line because there'll be groups of people blocking your way for no reason whatsoever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The aisles are not big enough for how many people are moving and stopping and talking, but there's no more room. Like they literally can't make the aisles any bigger because the show is so packed. So packed. Well, thank you, Charlene, for joining us. Any final tip you want to share with our audience before we close out?
My biggest tip is, if this is your first time going to IMEX, ask around your circles if anybody has been before. I think there's a lot of great like feedback that people will give personally that you will listen to from people that you know that have been there. And I know like great podcasts like this will talk about it, but really having somebody that you're familiar with that can give their own experience too. Don't just jump into IMEX with the expectations that you'll understand what a conference this is. This is a different type of conference for our industry. And always talk about it, ask about it. And you don't know if somebody else is going. Now you have your IMEX buddy that you can consistently find and touch base with. I always was touching base with various people while I was there. So that's my last takeaway.
Yeah, I love that. So thanks for listening to this bonus episode of Event About It. Whether you're attending IMEX for the first time or the 15th time, remember the goal isn't to see everything. It's to come home with something that moves your event, your business, or even your mindset forward. IMEX doesn't define your success, it reveals your priorities. So host what fuels you, ghost what drains you, and roast, lovingly, everything that needs to be better next year. I'm Megan Martin, reminding you that great events aren't built on luck. They're built on lessons, laughter, and a whole lot of lattes. And I'll see you and your sensible shoes in Vegas next year for IMEX 2026.